Hello, my name is Brian Chavez, and today I'm going to be talking about how History 101 course has changed me as a person and has made me grow as an individual as well. My overall thesis for this assignment is this course has changed me by truly understanding that life isn't fair to certain people who can't control other people's actions just because you, as a person, are in the way of their goal and they will do anything to achieve that, even if that goes against human morals, the religion, or anything along those lines, or even laws as well. First part, I will be talking about how Columbus' mindset towards the Tianu natives when he first encountered them, and they were friendly towards him and the Spaniards at first. Um, so yeah, according to the textbook, quote, it would require only 50 Spaniards, he wrote, to hold the islanders in subjection and make them do whatever one might wish, end quote. So this quote, um, this evident ties back to my thesis. For example, Columbus's goal was to reach Asia, and these people he encountered are somewhat in his way. So he's going to do whatever it takes to reach his goal. And those actions were enslaving them, outright killing them, raping their women, and just dehumanizing them as people. And this made me grow as a person by understanding that Columbus had this premature dehumanizing mindset towards anyone, and unfortunately it was the Tiano people that encountered him. So unfortunately they were in his way and he was going to do whatever it takes to reach his goal, even if that goes against his morals, his religion, or anything in along those lines. um he is so desperate to reach his goal that the Spaniards, like I stated already, killed and sold these people, stole for them, and raped their women. And it makes me just understand that even though he was advised this might be wrong, it doesn't matter because the goals that he wanted to reach were the only thing that mattered to him, unfortunately. This also made me grow as a person by this made me also grow as a person by understanding that people who make derogatory remarks against indigenous people or other groups aren't educated enough to understand how moments like these that Columbus encountered the Tiano and his actions towards them still affect certain groups to this day. Um, even and the moments like this would affect generations after generations, and someone like myself who isn't this ethnicity, it affects me because people weren't supposed to be treated like this. And that's something that made me grow as a person, that these people had nothing to do. They were just physically in between Columbus and his goal, and they eventually got the short end of the stick, in my opinion. Also, another personal growth during this course is forgiving people who have made remarks to put down people and bad history events that impact certain people to this day. The second thing I'm going to be talking about is how the Constitution acknowledged and safeguarded the institution of slavery because it was the only way that the Southern states would have joined the Union. According to the textbook, quote, they agreed the international slave trade could not be banned for at least 20 years, unquote. So this reference is to how the South wanted the right to acquire and exchange human beings as property, and the Deep South delegates warned and told them they would abandon the convention if there wasn't a compromise for their human property. So um, this evidence goes back to my thesis as people will do whatever it takes to reach their goals, even if it goes against human morals or what they believe in. And in this specific topic, the founding fathers, some of the founding fathers, knew and felt that slavery was not okay. However, it didn't matter to them because without the South's approval, they would not have signed the Constitution, and therefore the Union would not have been created. So, this is how this quote goes back to my thesis that people will do whatever it takes to reach their goal, even if it goes against morals, laws, their religion. It doesn't matter. They're so desperate to reach their goal. This made me grow as a person, like I said, to actually understand that the founding fathers were so desperate to reach their goal of signing the Constitution that they turned a blind eye and made sure that in the Constitution that it wasn't prohibited to have slaves. This also made me grow as a person because it made me realize growing up we would make jokes about slaves or being a slave and certain remarks like this, and it hurts to know that myself and other people like my friends would make jokes about this because now I'm educated enough to understand that the founding fathers turned a blind eye to prohibit slavery in the Constitution just because they needed the South to be on board. And if they weren't on board, the Constitution would not have been signed. So it shows how desperate people are to get their goals and how they will turn a blind eye and go against their own morals just because they needed that Constitution so bad that they didn't involve uh, prohibiting slavery in the Constitution. It also made me grow by accepting these bad events happened and speaking up against people who think it's a joke like slavery, and just trying to educate these people who think it's a joke because they don't understand what that slavery and this specific no prohibiting slavery in the Constitution can still affect generation and future generations. We're all given the same opportunity. We were not all given the same opportunity because our skin color, and that is a fact when it comes to the black race in the United States of America. The next topic I'm going to be talking about is how President Jackson brushed off the Supreme Court's ruling to not, how he denied Supreme Court's ruling and eventually made the Cherokee Nation leave its own territory. According to the book, quote, President Jackson, however, believed it was ridiculous for the federal government to treat Amerindians nations as if they were their own sovereign and independent states, end quote. And this quote goes back to my thesis because President Jackson and the South, they wanted the land that the Native Americans or the indigenous people like the Cherokee Nation were on so they can plant cotton and make as much money possible as they can. So again, people will do whatever it takes to reach their goal, even if it goes against their morals, their religion, or laws. And in this specific incident, it was the law. It was hard to accept that Jackson ignored the Supreme Court's decisions. This made me grow as a person by not getting mad anymore at people who don't understand how events like this hurt people and how derogatory terms of indigenous people still hurt this race. This made me grow because the South, Jackson, disregarded the Supreme Court's decision and said, I don't care what you, as the Supreme Court of this government, says, that we're going to ignore you and still take these people off their land, even though you said we couldn't, the state of Georgia couldn't, because I'm so desperate for my goal that I'm going to do whatever it takes to reach that. It made me understand and grow because understanding Jackson's ignorance and supporting Georgia, removing the tribes because his goal was to get land, plant content, and make as much money possible. It also made me grow as a person because it hurts to understand that the Cherokee Nation were supposed to be protected because they were their own sovereign state and the Supreme Court recognized that. But Jackson and the state of Georgia didn't care and disregarded the Supreme Court's decision. This also made me grow as a person by forgiving people who have made derogatory terms to me or to other ethnic groups, because they might not know events like this, or even if they do know or do recall events like this, they don't take that into consideration because they're biased or whatever it could be on their end. I've chosen to forgive these people because I want to grow to be the bigger person and speak up to people and try to educate them as much as I can in a civil way. Um, I want to have a civil conversation and on why I'm speaking up against derogatory terms or anything along those lines. I don't take this stuff lightly anymore because I've learned in detail these horrible events that have occurred to people because they're simply in the way of someone else's goal. And the Cherokee people were in the way of Jackson and the South's goal of getting land, planting content, and making as much possible money as they can. This also made me grow as a person by understanding where I'm at in America, in the present day, whether I'm, at home or I'm driving cross country. If I'm driving through Colorado, Utah, Nevada, ending up in California, I now understand that these group of people were pushed west of the Mississippi and eventually pushed all the way to the West Coast because they were always in someone's way of their goal. And that made me realize and understand that these people were displaced from their homes because simply they were physically on their own land and they were in the way of someone else's goal. The evidence of President Jackson believed how it was ridiculous that the federal government treat the Amerindians nations as they were sovereign and independent, reflects on my thesis because people are so desperate to reach their goals that they would do whatever it takes if that goes against morals, laws, or the religion. And in this incident, it was the laws. The next thing we'll be talking about is the Kansas-Nebraska Act. According to the textbook, the Kansas-Nebraska Act disturbed them even more deeply because it proposed to, in effect, repeal the Missouri Compromise. End quote. A little background on this: the Missouri Compromise was a law saying north of this latitude, slavery was prohibited. South of the latitude line, slavery was allowed. And the Kansas-Nebraska Act overruled that by giving the people of the new territories popular sovereignty to decide whether slavery was going to be allowed there or not. So, how does this reflect my thesis of people will do whatever it takes to reach their goals, whether it goes against their morals, religion, or um, laws? This is all about laws. Again, a little background: the East Coast wanted to be connected to the West Coast via transcontinental railroad. Um, so to make that happen, they had to push through the Kansas-Nebraska Act to give these new territories the freedom of popular sovereignty to um to be able to decide on if slavery was going to be allowed there or prohibited. So the Missouri Compromise line was already in act, and someone, the government, the people were so desperate to get that transcontinental railroad intact that they went against the law, put this new law, and kind of made everyone forget about the Missouri Compromise because they were so desperate to get the transcontinental railroad that they disregarded the Missouri Compromise line and put the Kansas Nebraska Act to give those new territories the popular sovereignty to decide whether slavery was going to be allowed there or not, when in fact there was already a law in place talking about the latitude north and south of it. This made me grow as a person because, like I said, laws were already in place to have slavery prohibited north of the latitude and south, and allowed slavery south of the latitude line. But again, they wanted that railroad, and they were so desperate to connect the West Coast that they were willing to get this new law in act. So it gave people the freedom to choose whether um, slavery was going to be allowed or not. This made me grow as a person by understanding whether it's a law, religion, or morals. But in this specific incident, it was a law. That there was a law in place, and if someone wanted something, they would overrule that law right away or push it as fast as they can to let these new territories decide on slavery and if they could build that railroad. This course and events, the four specific events that I just stated, made me more at peace because I'm more educated with history now. It made me more at peace by not being angry, by being able to grow as a person and not have this hatred towards people who kind of brush these events off and think and state that, oh, it was so long ago, it doesn't matter, people are too sensitive. I won't get angry anymore because they might not know all these details that I've learned in the specific course, and the specific little details that's very dehumanizing towards specific groups where laws were broken, where where actions were upon these people simply because they were so desperate to reach their goal that they didn't care whatever it took, that they were going to reach their goal. I've grown overall in this course because I want to educate people who think people are too sensitive nowadays, with events that happened in the past, by letting them know people couldn't stand up for themselves during these specific events. Whether it was Columbus, the Constitution, the President Jackson overruling the Supreme Court decision, or the Kansas Nebraska Act. All these things were in place already, but people were so desperate to reach their goals that it didn't matter. And I want to be able to let these people know that they think people are too sensitive nowadays, but they couldn't stand up for themselves for multiple reasons. And not being angry is going to make me a better person, And this course has made me grow to not be an angry person towards this specific group of people who think people are too sensitive nowadays. Um, and it's going to make me a better person by hopefully being able to educate the future generation on the educational purposes to understand that these bad history events um, can make them grow as a person, can help them understand where other people are coming from when it comes to racial equality. And overall, this course has made me grow as a person from the things I've stated already. Um, Dr. Mooney, it was an honor to be in your course. I've learned so much about history. I've learned so much about myself, and thank you again for this course and this specific semester. Thank you.